This is Gemara Yuma Daf Pei Hey. All the learning should be as chus for Hashem, but from men v'vega chayim mesaj lam sim v'reis other baskanendol ita basiyim bas chayse yisol mendel or president shalisham bas nomi bas shavig shechan shmo bentila tinem bechan rizam chay basiyim libracha bas musa din eino bas nin mendes viv v'vega yurne v'chel eson natil huva menafko bas v'shava naftali viv mechel Esther b'sei shar chayli Yisrael. We pick it up on the bottom of Pei Dalit Amid Beis. We're going to start from the two dots, even though we started that already, about 10 lines from the bottom. Yes, I am in New York. I don't believe we're going to be able to organize a siyum for everyone, but if anyone is making a siyum, please feel free to be in touch. It would be my pleasure to try my best to participate. So we pick it up on the bottom, about 10 lines from the bottom. We're in the middle of the discussion about Saikanas Nefashais. When do we save a life? Such an apropos sugya, unfortunately, says the Gemara Machabin Umafsikin. The two dots, about 12 lines from the bottom. Peidal at Amid Beis. Says the Gemara Lamali, why do we have to teach that? The famous rule, we do not go after roiv, we do not go after the majority. What do we go with? We go with even the smallest of chances, as we'll see today, a very famous daf, very famous Gemaras, all different sources and Mekairis, why and how and when we save a life. Says the Gemara, Hechidami, what is the case? If there are 9 Jews and 1 guy, excuse me, because Ruba Yisrael, it's right Yisraelim. Of course we're going to go and save their life. Ella says the Gemara, Palgo. Must be the case is 50-50, equal chance whether Jew and guy. Says the Gemara, what's the Shaila again? Safik Nefash is the Hakel. That's also an obvious rule, that the rule is Safik Nefash is the Hakel, that anytime we're not sure, what do we do? If we want to save a life, we go Likula, and therefore we're going to, yes, save the life. Says the Gemara, really the overwhelming majority is Goyim. And yet, the Chiddush is that we're still allowed to be Daicha, we're still allowed to be Machal Shabbos to potentially try to save the life. Says the Gemara, that's also obvious. A rule that we've learned many times, whenever we have something set, we know for sure there is something here, then the halacha is, even though it's 90-10, it's 99-1, the halacha is called Kavua Kamech Samech Satami. It has a status of a 50-50, and therefore for sure you're going to be Machal, for sure you're going to go and desecrate to save the life. Answers the Gemara, Loitzrichan, this is really where he concluded. The Chiddush is that they went to a different Chatzar, different courtyard. So Ma'u the Tema, we would think if we go with the regular rules called the Parish, Meruba Parish, the rules state that when you separate, you assume you come out of the right. So I have 9 Goyim and 1 Jew. I would assume that if they separated to a different courtyard, which one went there? The assumption would be the guy, and therefore you would not be allowed Timachal Shabbos. Kamash Mulan, the Chiddush is La'alchu B'koach Nefesh Acharoy. That is the Chiddush of Shmuel, that we do not, or Rav Yisrael, Rav Yehuda or Shmuel, I should say, we do not go by regular statistics, and even though generally we would, yes, assume this to be a non-Jew, still we're going to be Machal to save the life. Says the Gemara, Eini, is this true? We have a case of Tisha Kusin, 9 Goyim and 1 Jew, like we just spoke about. Says the Gemara, 4 lines from the bottom, the exact opposite of what we just said. That if it's Chatzer Acheres, we do not go and search for the Jew. Even though we say the Chiddush of Yehuda, Rav Yisrael, Rav Yehuda, Shmuel, his Chiddush should have been that we go and we save the life, even when it's a small percentage. Answers the Gemara, like Kasha, the parish Kulu, the parish Miksasai. The difference is going to be, did they all separate or did some of them separate? That's going to be the difference in these cases. Says the Gemara, 1 second. Again, one more time, what just happened is the parish Kulu, that's what we're going to say that we yes go, and we yes go to save the life. How the parish Merksas, Rav Yechlan said we're not going to go save the life, is where there's some of them left in the original place. And of course, let's remind yourself, that's why I said in the beginning, unfortunately this is quite relevant, we're discussing over here, we're discussing the case of clearing away rubble underneath a building in order to potentially save a life. Says the Gemara, 3 lines from the bottom. The Shmuel really say this thing. Vatinam, we learned in the Mishnah. Matzah estinoik moshlachem roiv kusim. Kusi. If you find a child that's strewn amongst a bunch of Goyish children, we assume it to be a guy. Vim roiv Yisrael. the majority of Jews is a Jew. Mechsal, what's the status? Yisrael. There's only a din in Lachiyosai to potentially save the life. But Liyachasai, in order for Yichos to assume that the kid is actually a Jew, then we do not say that. Ushmuel Amar, and the critical words that we are looking for, as we turn over to today's Daf Behiyam and Aleph. Ushmuel Amar says, Shmuel, Lepakeach alav esagal. What are we referring to? Referring to digging out. And what do we see over here? We see that when it's majority Goyim, we do not dig out the kid. An exact opposite of the din of Shmuel. Answers the Gemara, Ki itmar de Shmuel, Reisha itmar. Shmuel is going back in the Reisha. What did the Reisha say? Imroiv kusim kusi. If the majority of Goyim we assume to be a Goy, on that, Omar Shmuel in Pikuach Nefesh, Einoi Kain. Imroiv kusim, Einoi Kain says Shmuel. And rather, with regard to Pikuach Nefesh, we will, yes, save the life. Then Pikuach Nefesh Einoi Kain. Says the Gemara, 1 second. Imroiv kusim kusi l'mayel chasa. So what halacha comes out of the Tanakama statement that if the majority of Goyim, it's Goyim Amar Ababa, la'achiloi nevelois. He has the status of a guy that we can feed him treif. He has the status of a guy. Imroiv Yisrael, what's that halacha for? Says the Gemara, l'mayel chasa. To return his Aveda. And Mechsal, what's the halacha? Yisrael, l'mayel chasa, Reish Lakish. Linizakin. When it comes to damages, as we know, the whole sugya and Baba Kama with regard to an axe scoring, damaging someone else, you get into an accident, crashing your car into someone else. When do you pay? When do you not pay? Says the Gemara, Heichidami, what exactly is going on? If a Jewish axe scores this doubtful axe, this doubtful person, we're not sure if he's a Jew or not. Nesi Rayev and Ishko. Says the Gemara, the halacha always is Hamaiti mechaviroi alav araya. So you just told me Mechsal, it's 50-50 is the status of a Jew. What's going on? The halacha should be you have to bring a proof. Like Tzricha says the Gemara, the Nalchei Turah Didei L'Turah Didad. He gored us. So he's going to have to pay half of it because he's the status of a Jew. The other half we're going to have the regular din of Hamotzi Mechvero Olav Araya. And those are the halachas of digging someone out of the rubble. Says the Gemara further. A similar case. Says the Gemara Maikamar. What is the Mishnah teaching us? Lo mi bai kamar. Lo mi bai safek hu sham safek einai sham. Di isachayu de mevachin. It's pashit. If we're not sure if there's someone there, and if there was someone there, we know for sure he's alive. In that case, we certainly dig him up. The chiddush is it means we don't even know if the person's alive. We still dig it up. Even further, something makes the Israel. We're not even sure if there's a Jew there, and even if it's a Jew, we don't even know if the person is a Yisrael or not. In such a case, we still would go and take out the undig the person from the rubble. Says the Gemara further, we said in the Mishnah, if Baruch Hashem you find someone alive, you take him out. On Shabbos, you find him dead, you don't touch him because of muksa. Says the Hilgi Gemara, Matzah Chai Mevach and Matzah Chai Pshita, Lo Yitzricha, the Chiddush is Dafil Chai Isha. And here we begin the very famous sugya that even if you're going to save the person, but he's crushed and dismembered, unfortunately, and bleeding to death, and he's going to stay alive for another few moments, still the halacha is for a Chai Isha, for even one moment of life, we desecrate the entire Torah, which of course is the biggest mitzvah, it's not a desecration at all, to save any form of Jewish life. But if the person is unfortunately dead, you leave him there under the rubble. Says Gemara, that's also obvious. What's the case? The Rav Yudah ben Lakish, the Tanya. We're going with the opinion of Rav Yudah ben Lakish that he normally says if there's a fire and there's a dead person in the building, the Tanakhama says leave him there, nothing to be done. Omar Rav Yudah ben Lakish argues, and he says he says normally you save a mace from a deleka, so you would think according to Rav Yudah ben Lakish in our case as well. If there's a mace buried, you save them. But says the Gemara, "Ba'afiler of Yudah ben Lakish like Kamar Elamitai Satan Bala Mesai." That's only a special kula, like we've learned when we learn Masechta Shabbos. That we're afraid if we don't let you take out the mace, you're going to go and be even more malach. So we let you take it out. But by us, Eloi Sharisli says the Gemara, we were afraid you're going to come to put out the fire and be even more malacha. In our case, where the person is buried, Eloi Sharisli, Ma'isli, the Mevet, there's nothing more to be done. And therefore, even Rav Yehuda ben Lakish is going to agree that unfortunately, if the person is dead underneath the rubble, there's nothing to be done. You leave him there till after Shabbos. Tanya Rabbanan says the Gemara, you want to check. Until where do you check to see if the person is alive? Till his nose, you check his heart. Let's say you check through. And again, unfortunately, so apropos, we know that in Meiron, this is what happened. The top layer, there were people dead in the top layer. Don't stop. Don't say, don't say the one underneath it for sure died. Absolutely not. And unfortunately, the top ones could be dead, but the ones underneath are still alive. And therefore, keep on going and looking until you're for sure that there's absolutely no life to be found at all. Says the Gemara, let's say the following Tanaim hold like these. Tanaim, the Tanaim learned in the Reis, this should hopefully ring a little bit of a bell that we'll point out in a moment. From where is the Vlad created? Meiroishe from his head. Shenemar mimai imoi atagazis. Vaymer gazin izrecha v'shlichi. Abashalom remiti buray from his belly. Umishach sharoishav ilach veilach. And then it goes outward. This is very similar to the Gemara that we saw that where's the world created? Was the world created from the center and then unfolded outward? The world created outward and then brought back inward. Says the Gemara, perhaps that is the same machlekes. Whether when you're searching, you search from the nose to see from breath, or you search from the chest. Says the Gemara, no. That's creating a shin of a person. Everything is created from the middle, like we just pointed out with the creation of the world. The ikr chiyas, your life is in the breath, and therefore he'll agree that you're going to check the breath. As the Apostle says, that whatever there's going to be breath inside the nostrils, and therefore he's going to agree that you're going to have to always check to make sure there's no breath coming out of his mouth. Omar Rapapa further qualifies as machlekes how we could ascertain if the person is alive. Machlekes mimato lemala. Says Rapapa, the whole machlekes is when you start from the bottom up. That's the machlekes. If we see that there's no chest, we see the chest isn't moving, do we keep on searching to see that if the nose is air coming out? But if you went down and you know there's no air coming out of his nose, keep it above the Shov ein sarach, that everyone agrees the slip goes shenishos ruach ba'apav. Ukvar Rav Yishmael Rav Akiva says the Gemara, and Rav Yishmael Rav Akiva already debated this point. We're on the first wide line. Excuse me, Kvar Rav Yishmael Rav Akiva Rav Lozben Azari Mahalchim Adarach. They're all going in the road. The Levi Asadar, interesting name. Rashi doesn't know where it comes from. Very unique Rashi. Rav Yishmael ben Aish, Rav Lozben Azari Al Mahalchin Achareim. We're going after them. They asked the following question: how do we know the age-old $1 million question? Bikuach nefesh is Doicha Shabbos. Then Rav Yishmael Ba'amar Rav Yishmael answered. He said, "B'machteres Yimsa Aganaf." We're going to have the whole litany of all the different sources of Mekayros. Perhaps different nuances between them. How we know that we're Doicha Machalal anything in order to save a life. Says the first source. Says the Gemara. If someone is tunneling through your house in order to steal from you, what do? You're allowed to shoot him dead. Why? And this case is something on the Vashishpa. You don't know why is this person tunneling into your house. Maybe he's coming to kill you. Maybe he's coming for your money. And shvichas dam it makes the land impure. And it caused the Shechina to leave Klal Yisrael. Yet you let it save a life. You see that life is so important. For this slight, mere suffix, maybe he's coming to get you. You let it kill him. Certainly, Pikuach Nefesh could save a life. Then Rav Akiva said, and he gave a second answer. From the Mizbech, you take him to death. Excuse me. You take him from the Mizbeach and not on the Mizbeach. That's only referred to killing the person as we turn over. Two, I pay him in the base, excuse me. When it comes to keeping someone alive, meaning if there's a kohen on the mizbeach and he knows testimony, you take him off even during the avodah, you pull him down, come and testify to save a life. And now we have a source. Says the Gemara. In this case, second line from the top. We don't know if the kohen really knows what to say. He says, I know testimony. We're not sure. And yet, what's the halacha of avodah? And yet we take him off the mizbeach. And we know that avodah serving the Beis Hamikdash is extremely important. Why? 3 lines down, again, if avoid of the mizbeach is deichas Shabbos, and saving a life is deichas mizbeach, so certainly saving a life will be deichas Shabbos. Source number 2. We're up to number 3. Mila is one of the 248 limbs. Shabbatim deichas Shabbos. And we know, of course, it's deichas Shabbos. Rashi here very interestingly points out that the Mila is the tikkun, it's fixing the body. Certainly the entire body. Source number 4, you gotta watch my Shabbos. I would think everything. Chalik, it splits it up, and not for everything. Certain times you don't watch the Shabbos when it comes to save a life. Number 5, it is given to you. You are not given over to it. Meaning you have to watch. Do not give up your life for Shabbos. You have to guard Shabbos. Says the Shabbos achas. The first white line, Yishmar. Shabbos is such an important line, a critical line. Says the Gemara, you gotta watch Shabbos. But be mechalel Shabbos for what reason? Sheyishmar Shabbos is harbi, and this is the big marmakim, the big source that we can even be mechalel Shabbos sometimes, but it's not to save a life. If they're, God forbid, taking someone away to Shema, to take him off the derech, to make him into Christianity, for that as well, says Shulchan Aruch, you can be mechalel Shabbos. Why? To save his future Jewishness, to save his future Yiddishkeit. Sheyishmar Shabbos is harbi. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, the first white line, if I was there. Source number 7. I would have said, mine is better than everyone. Why? The chai b'hem, you have to live with the mitzvahs, and you don't die with the mitzvahs. And Amar Rava, and Rava responds to his final source, like Kulu Islu Pircha Bar Midishmuel. The last day Pircha, they all have a Pircha, we all could ask questions. Aside for the last one, the last day Pircha, Rabbi Shmuel, Dama Kedarava, Dama Rava, my time, the Machlaris Chazagin, the Maimon Atzma. First of all, maybe the first source we could ask on, because how can you bring a proof of someone coming to steal from you? Maybe there is coming from your money, behind me the other, and we all know nothing stands in the way of your money. So if someone's coming for your money, it's not a suffix if he's going to kill you. It's a vadai. So maybe that's what you can learn from there. So it only bring a proof for a vadai pikuach nefesh. The Rabbi Kiva Nami, according to the second mukar, the lack of the Rabbi, maybe it's like a Bayim Rabbi. We give over someone to test the kohen to see if there's something about what he's saying. And again, how do we know if we're not sure? In all the cases, all the 6 sources were all cases of vadai. How do you know about Safik, Udishmo, vadai? That's like Pircha, Meravina, Vitim, Rav Nachman, Yitzchak, Tava, Chada, Pilpula, Charifa, Malitzina, Dikari. One sharp pepper is better than a full basket full of gores. The last Amayra, Shmuel had a better statement than even all the Tanaim. We see over here, V'chai Bahem, this is one of the biggest sources, and V'chai Bahem is where we learn out that even for one moment of life, like we said in Amud Aleph, even for a fetus, an unborn life, as that is the halacha, where Mechal Shabbos, because V'chai Bahem, the Torah is given to live by. V'loi Sheyamos Bahem. Says the Gemara, let's begin the Mishnah. Chatos, we're more into the actual Yom Kippur, the actual, what is the atonement? The Yom HaKadosh. How does it atone? Says the Mishnah, Chatos v'Asham v'adei mechaprin. A Chatos and an Asham v'adei, or Asham that you for sure have to bring, mechaprin gives you atonement. Misa v'Yom Kippurim mechaprin. Misa and Yom Kippur are mechaper im tshuva, only with tshuva. Tshuva mechaper is ala v'eirus kalois. You repent, that is mechaber for aseis and lois aseis velchamurois. Hu Taila, but on the stringent ones, your Taila, you're hanging at Yav Yom Kippurim Yichaber, you need Yom Kippur itself. If someone, God forbid, says, I'll sin and I'll do tshuva, I'll sin and I'll do tshuva, Ein Masbikim Biyad L'As L'Tshuva, well, Shem doesn't let him do tshuva. But if he says, Yom Kippurim Mechaber, if he says, I'll sin and Yom Kippur will be Mechaber, doesn't work. Ein Yom Kippur Mechaber. Aveir Shvin Adam L'Makim, Aveir between you and God, Yom Kippur Mechaber, that works. Aveir Shvin Adam, important line, especially now during the 3 weeks. Bein Adam L'Chaveiroi, Ein Yom Kippur Mechaber. Yom Kippur is not Mechaber for Aveir between you and friend. Achir says Chaveiroi. So why wait until Elul? Let's take care of all the fights right now. There's a lot of Azariah Mikol Chad Zeichem L'Tei Hashem Titaru. Aveir Shvin Adam L'Makim, Aveir between you and Hashem. Yom Kippur Mechaber. Aveiroi Shvin Adam Mechaber. Achir says Chaveiroi again. Until you ask for atonement from your friend. Amar Rav Akiva Sheichem Yisrael, praiseworthy is God, so Neimiyatem Metarim. In front of who gives you Ta'ir Mi Metar Eschem Avichem Sheba Shamayim Shenemar. V'zerakti Elechem Mayim Ta'irim, you thrown to them the purifying waters, Yihartem Amar. Mikveh Yisrael Hashem Ma Mikveh Metar Satameim. Av HaKadosh Baruch Hu Metame Sisal to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Metame Klal Yisrael. And we're going to stop over here and we'll pick up from all the